Welcome back to the Piping Pastor. Today we'll be continuing our discussion of Theodicy by looking at the best of all possible worlds argument. Today I am smoking some Balkan mixture out of my Curtit Meerschaum Churchwarden. I have mentioned this pipe before a few times. But my wife pointed out that I should probably make mention of it once more because she was really impressed with the customer service. Sure, this is as a birthday gift for me, and initially the carving was meant to be of an elephant, not one of the big like elephant head meerschaums, but a meerschaum churchwarden almost exactly like this, but just with the carving of an elephant on the front and then some filigree on the sides. And the reason for that is because my daughters went through this phase where they were describing relationships and people through animal characteristics, and at that time they likened me to an elephant, because I had a great memory, because I was very family oriented, because I was very steady and strong, and always there and reliable, and all these various different traits, and kind of made me tear up a little bit. So since then, it's kind of been my animal totem that I am the elephant, or perhaps it's because I'm the elephant in the room. Uh, but in any case, so I saw this churchwarden carved by Curtit with an elephant on it. I was like, oh, it's perfect. So I was like, so if you're thinking about a birthday gift, and that would be the one. And so she attempted to order it, and they didn't have it, and he'd only carved so many, and so on and so forth. And so they went back and forth, and it looked like they weren't going to be able to get the new pipe carved in time and sent to arrive before my birthday. And so my wife is filling me in on the process, and I was like, it's okay. I was like, I was disappointed, but it's fine. But they kept after it. The person she was working with there just went out of their way to try to find something to try to make things work, to try to make Deanna happy. And in the end, I ended up getting this one, which is just a beautiful. It doesn't have an elephant on it, but it's beautifully carved pipe, and it's far more intricately carved than the elephant pipe that I had originally chose to order. So they did a great job, really taking care of us. So she was like, now that you've got all those extra followers, you should mention them again. So I do have an Instagram page as well, but I think there's a link on the YouTube channel, which I do not update very often at all. But I put some information in there and a link to their website so that you can order, because it can be difficult sometimes trying to order a meerschaum if you're not in Turkey or Northern Africa, because sometimes it looks like a real meerschaum and it's not block carved, and there's all these various different ways that you can get like an inferior quality pipe without really realizing it until you've already ordered it and gotten it. So happily, I've done the work for you on that one. So there you go. That's what Cliff was talking about. I just filled it, and just to be a bit cheeky, I pulled the wick a bit more on this one just for this video. I can't be beaten out by Cane Rod Piper. No, I'll trim it back after this because that is ridiculously high, but it's fun. Anyway, the Odyssey. Well, I mentioned in the previous video that I would get into the best of all possible worlds. Now, the idea of figuring out the problem of evil in the world has put forth a lot of different ideas. The best of all possible worlds theory was first popularized by Leibniz, and it was his assumption that, well, if God is a good God, and God wants the best for us, and so on and so forth, then out of the infinite number of universes that God could have created, then this must be the best option, right? It's not perfect, but it's the best way that things could possibly have happened. Because if there were a better world or a better universe or a better way of going about things, then God would have chosen it. If there was a way to give humans both free will and have a relationship with God without evil, then God would have chosen that. So this world, this universe that we live in, is the best of all the possible, of the infinite number of options. This is the best one. So yes, evil exists, but it's the best that we could have hoped for while still having free will. So now, of course, we could have a world without any evil in it. That's one of the possible worlds. But then everything would have to be in and of under the control of God. You wouldn't have the option to go steal a car because God would prevent that happening, because that would be an evil you would do against someone else. If you look at any of the dystopian fictional stories, 1984 and Handmaid's Tale, and a lot of the other ones, they're based on the idea of a government in total control for the people's own good. And of course, we reject that because it limits our freedom, limits our personal freedom, limits our free will. So in order to have that, built into that is a little bit of risk of evil. So what science and religion researchers have done in recent years is to take that theory of that particular theodicy and interpret it in a scientific manner. See, at the beginning of the universe, 13.7 billion years ago, 14 billion years ago, whatever it is, um, the universe expands from a singularity. And you have these four forces that essentially make up the universe, hold the universe together. Now, again, and I know I don't want to belabor this point, but if you believe in a literal interpretation of Genesis 1 and 2, you are free to do so. I do not ascribe to that. I don't think it's theologically necessary. And I see no problem with science and religion being overlapping magisterium. I have a whole video on that, on creationism. So if you are of the school of thought that Genesis 1 and 2 is literal and the earth is 9,000 years old, you're free to believe that, but that's not where I'm going with this. So in any case, so 14 billion years ago, the universe expands from this singularity, correct? And out of that comes these four natural forces. So you have electromagnetism, gravity, strong and weak nuclear forces, right? In order for the universe to exist as it does, with us in it, if you imagine those four forces as, like, say, dials, those dials all have to be set to the right number in congruence in order for the universe to exist as it does. And if the changes in any one of those dials was minuscule, we would not be able to exist. If gravity was just a tick to the right, then everything would expand out so rapidly there would never ever be a chance for anything to coalesce. You would never have, the common production of carbon in stars as the basis for all these various different carbon-based life forms and things like that, because everything would just be out everywhere. If gravity was just a tick to the left, then everything would be so condensed it would not, it wouldn't be able to expand out, right? So either it expands too fast or it expands too slowly. And the same thing for other forces. Just a wee hair on any one of these little forces, it's not as if these four forces exist and they're kind of like, well, it's, if this one's a little high, that one's a little low, they kind of balance out. No, they all have to balance perfectly as they are, um, in order for the universe to exist. And of course, I mean, I don't want to get into the difference between prescriptive and descriptive, right? I mean, because we're not saying that we are we're placing this value on these forces. These forces exist apart from human observation of them. They are the source of physical reality, and so from my view, they are an ontological source of reality as put in place by God. But in any case, so the odds that these four forces would be so perfectly balanced in order to create a universe like ours where we can exist. Again, the odds are infinitesimal. And then beyond that, um, the chance that galaxies would form and we would have the quote unquote Goldilocks planet that we currently live on, where it's just far enough away from the sun, but not too close. Again, the odds are really incredibly small. And we can get into the discussion about alien life and so on and so forth, because that's a fun theological discussion to have. Maybe that'll be in another video after Theodicy. We got one more Theodicy video. But so for all these things to come together, for the universe to be formed, it's an incredibly rare thing, right? I mean, we're talking about a real singular event for the universe to be formed as it is. But in that, what science and religious researchers have argued is that for this balance to occur, for these things to happen, this is the best possible outcome that we could have. Because if any one of those little things was ticked just a wee bit here, there, left, or right, then humanity as we know it would not be able to exist. The universe as we know it would not be able to exist. So it might be something totally different, in which case we wouldn't exist at all. And so, there's a whole argument there for about whether that's good or not. But if any of these things were changed, we wouldn't be here. So this is literally the best of all possible worlds. From a scientific perspective, this is the best possible outcome, because any other outcome we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be able to have a discussion about whether or not it's good. So from Leibniz' perspective, from a theological perspective, from a philosophical perspective, God has ultimate power, God has ultimate options. So in order for us to have free will, this has to be the best of all possible worlds. And from a scientific perspective, the balancing of these forces means that this is the best possible option of any options that we could have had. Any other option that we could have had would have been non-existent, would have been us not existing. So it's scientifically the best of all possible worlds, theologically and philosophically the best of all possible worlds. So even though we have the existence of evil and the problem of evil in the universe, natural evil, human to world evil, all these various different things, it's the best we could have hoped for. And then we have the saving grace of Christ, we have the actions of God and the mercy of God, so that we can get through those bad parts and then attain eventually reconciliation with God in and through God. And that's when the evil is gone. And that's when every tear will be wiped away from our eyes, because that will be a somewhat different reality than we are in now. So, but that is a discussion for maybe a fourth video where we go after that. So in any case, I'm going to turn my attention back to my lovely church warden pipe and my cold brew coffee. So I hope that you have a lovely week. And as always, happy reading.